mission: end the silence, the stigma, and the shame about
suicide loss, ideation, and mental health. Please, won't you join me?
Welcome to Suicide Zen Forgiveness, the podcast that shares powerful stories of suicide loss, ideation, and mental health in order to break the silence, stigma, and shame. Our mission is to encourage empathy for those experiencing these challenges. Every narrative serves as a beacon of hope on to touch lives and inspire resilience. Won't you join me in this journey as we share stories to help others to find hope? Please note this podcast is for educational purposes and may contain triggering content. If you're grieving or experiencing mental health issues, please reach out to your local suicide hotline or mental health office for immediate help. And now, let's start the show. My next guest is Jennifer Henczel. She's a podcaster and author. She's the founder of the Women in Podcasting Network and Inspiring Innovators Club. Jennifer's mission is to lift women's voices and stories globally. She's known for her ability to build thriving, supportive, and collaborative communities, and she teaches others how to do the same. She loves creating opportunities for women to connect and collaborate in meaningful ways. Using her Rise, Reach, Results roadmap, she provides tools, templates, and trainings to help her members generate more impact and influence. She speaks about her mindset, messaging, and monetization strategies for building communities, leveraging content, and turning expertise into multiple streams of income. She's an award-winning leader and has won or been nominated for quite a number of awards. Most recently, she's the winner of the Innovator of the Year Award at the Quill Podcast Awards. She is also in charge of the Women in Podcasting Awards. I have to say, from the very first time I met her, what a giving, caring, kind person Jennifer is, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. So sit down, get comfy, and be sure to enjoy. So I am thrilled to introduce you to my guest, Jennifer Henczel, who has been kind enough to join us here today. This could be a little different because today we're concentrating on a little more uplifting, not just stories, but some of the tips and tricks that Jennifer herself was able to use after, you'll hear in the story after what. But I really want to make sure that we have a couple of shows where we're really focusing on resilience, tenacity, and the things that people do to help themselves get through, because we all need those kinds of things. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's such a thrill to connect with you face to face. And we do have community together online, but
We
it's
do.
so nice to meet together here on video.
Absolutely. And as you heard earlier, Jennifer runs the Women in Podcasting, and she's also in charge of the Women in Podcasting Awards, which we will talk about later. For now, Jennifer, I would just like you to go ahead and take away the conversation from wherever you would like to start it.
Oh, as far as resilience, my journey started when I was working full time and doing my side gig on the side. And I was working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. Too much hustle, not enough self-care, no health and self-care.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for a long time, I was doing that. I was just having that as my side gig. And it always seemed like success was just around the corner. That feeling where you want to change in your life and you think you're doing all the things, all the millions of things, chasing the credentials, just doing all the things that you think you need to do. And I just was never reaching it. And then finally in 2012, I was able to break through and turn my part-time gig into my full-time gig. I just was never I was a good employee in that I always did the work, like, I did a lot of work. I just was not a good subordinate, or I don't know, like, it just didn't work for me. Like, it doesn't work for my mental health. For whatever reason, I needed to be an entrepreneur. And so since 2012, I have been an entrepreneur. That's my full-time income, and that works for me, and I've never worked for anyone since. So I was just gonna tell you how that journey went
Yeah.
a little bit, and the resilience that it took, and the situation that happened. A big part of that was learning how to build a thriving community around my message and how to leverage my message and expertise to generate a reoccurring monthly income. And so, if there's people out there who are struggling, just being employed, I know getting a good job is like winning the lottery these days. So, I'm not suggesting anybody leave their job, of course. But if you have been contemplating, if you've had a side gig and you've been contemplating for your own mental health, for whatever reasons, to be self employed or to make extra income, I do have some suggestions that can help you. And it's mostly around the idea of community building. And for me, it started when one day I had the worst phone call anybody could ever want to have. And I was at my full time job, and it was my husband's boss. And he said, "You need to come to the hospital right away because your husband was in a really bad accident." And all the way to the hospital, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to lose my best friend today. And it's really timely because the Olympics are on right now. And at that time, it was 2010, and the Olympics were coming through Vancouver, the Olympic flame,
Yeah.
and I got stuck behind the Olympic flame.
Oh my
So whenever I
God.
s so whenever I see the Olympic flame in the Olympics, it's a great celebration for most people, but for me, I just remember I was behind the Olympic, like, literally behind these athletes holding up an Olympic
Oh my
flame on a moving
God.
kinda truck situation,
Yeah.
trying to get to the hospital to see my husband. So finally, I was able to I had to go all the way around anyways, and finally made it to the hospital. I didn't recognize my husband. When I first went into the critical care room, I didn't recognize him. He had been crushed by 12,000 pounds of wood, so it was really bad.
My God.
And thankfully, he survived,
Uh,
but it was a long recovery, and it was a real tragedy that shook up our lives and really blew up our lives, and it was a long recovery for him. He still has injuries
yeah.
from that to this day. He was so courageous, and it just warmed my heart, the courage he had to get through that, and there was some dark days that we both had, and we were there for each other, and it made us even stronger. There's a lot of people we were told in this situation that end up getting divorced and things like that.
Yeah.
And for us, it just made us stronger. And he had him just he was up against unimaginable odds. We both were. And yet we made it through. And so for me, the whole thing really made me look at my life and realize I had become isolated.
Ah.
I had become stuck. I was stuck in my job. Like I said, I was stuck in my life, stuck behind screens. I just felt
I just gonna stop you for a second and say, wow, it is hard enough to deal with injury when it's ourselves. It is an awful lot harder when it's someone we love. And this is a catastrophic happening that just had to really knock you back. So sorry, go on.
yes, for sure. That's exactly how it was. For me, the whole thing really made me look at my life, and I realized that I had become isolated and stuck in my job, stuck in my life. Have you ever felt stuck?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things, though, that really impacted me at the time was how the communities my husband was involved in before his accident. He was a volunteer football player in the community, or
Oh,
sorry, a football coach, not
oh,
player,
okay.
a volunteer football coach in the community. And so some of the football kids and coaches would come around and say, "We're here for you, Coach Paul."
Oh, that's
And
so nice.
yeah, it really sustained us, really helped us get through.
Yeah.
And so while the situation really blew up my life, there were moments like that also ignited some kind of spark within me and my resilience. And it really helped us. And I realized one of the things I was missing was that kind of community in the business and entrepreneurial world. And so I wanted to bring that kind of camaraderie uh,
Yeah.
to other people. And so out of my own need to connect with people, I invited a bunch of people for to lunch one day, and I wasn't very organized with it. I just put it out on social media and I said, "Hey, who wants to join me for lunch?" And I reserved this little room, and to my surprise, 50 business owners showed up.
Wow.
So, yeah. it made me realize there's other people feeling the same way. And that one network, and I ended up having a large business network with multiple chapters in different cities throughout my region. And I had planned and promoted over 600 events during that time, and I met so many amazing people. And with the platform I had grown with that network, I was also able to help my husband go from an injured mill worker to an international speaker. And he did a
Wow.
TED Talk. Yeah, he did a TED Talk too, even that was called Silencing Stigma Through Storytelling. And he wrote a book called Crushed Alive about our story. It has both of our sort of journeys in there of how we survived this and how we moved from surviving to thriving and the resilience that it took every step of the way. So I ended up selling that network and I've built other successful communities along the way as you and I are connected through the Women in Podcasting Network. And as a result, I've developed systems and strategies for building communities and I help other people do the same. Yeah.
It- It's wonderful that you and your husband came through stronger because I know people who didn't make it through. Something untoward happens and it just breaks them, which is really sad. I know we're in the same case backwards to you and your husband. And as I said to my husband early on, we've been together 44 years. I said, look, there's no receipt. You get what you get, and there's no return. We're
Exactly.
still together too. We've decided, yeah, through thick and thin. And I think it's commendable that you put in the work because it really is work.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It takes a lot of thought and communication and brainstorming and navigating all those other difficult things that come with an accident but just staying that the community, that little nugget of community in the beginning there just really sparked something in me that led me towards this other path of building communities and we created this model because it always seemed like an uphill climb. And we created this model called the three apex system, where we have three different mountains that we find that we want to scale and reach the summit of. And the first one has to do with mindset. So we call it Mount Mindset. And so my husband and I very intentionally put in modalities to help us with our mindset and our mental health to stay
Good.
on track. Yeah, and so one of the things is that really helped me in that area is always thinking of community and being community mindset, having a community mindset because I was in hustle mode. It was constant hustle. And so what helped me and inspired me to build a community was that football community first, right? And so I like to say, ditch the hustle and join the huddle.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, ditch the hustle
And
and join the
join the
huddle.
huddle. Oh, that is really good.
So in other words, find a community. It takes some effort
Yeah,
because we don't sometimes want to be around other people when stuff like this is going on, right?
absolutely. And you're absolutely right about that because it's so hard. You always feel like you have to put on a brave face for other people. But I suppose having community that's there for you in those tough times, they don't
Yeah.
require that. They just want to help you.
I found out from that whole experience of finally realizing I didn't have to do everything alone. I found out that for anything to work, you actually need to be part of a community and you need to build your circle of support around you. It's not going to build itself.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there because that is so good. We find very often as entrepreneurs, you do tend to isolate. You tend to head down, do your work, all of that. And we have someone here, like you in Ottawa, who she's all about the events and getting all the women together. And she's a hustler in terms of bringing people together, but it's all about community for her. And it has been for forever. Shout out to Catherine Laundry, who does what you do. And it's actually it was really eye opening to go to something that was not so much about networking as it was about being a community and being there for each other in good times and bad. It's not simply about business. And I think that's why your communities work.
Exactly. Yes. Connection, collaboration, community. It's everything. Connection is everything for humans at the start and the end of everything. If you don't have connection, then what are you doing it for? And so I found out that people will help you if you show up to be helped, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And often we get so defensive in some ways that we're too spiky to ask for help.
Exactly, because you're in that mode, your head down. You just want to. You're overwhelmed with so many things,
Yes.
and I used to think the same thing. I used to think the last thing I need is another thing, another meeting to go to, another. But I found that it filled me up so much
Yeah.
that I had more energy to do all the other stuff, and having that connection made all the difference. So you need to put yourself in that experience and the value of being connected and supported to feel it. But it takes that leap from not knowing anyone to being in that community. There's a bit of a leap there. There's a bit of a, you need to bridge that. And when I turned 50, I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but when I turned 50, I went skydiving
Wow.
and, and going up, it was my first time. I had never been before. I just did it for my 50th birthday. And when you're going up in this plane, you're going up, up, and you think, oh, wow, we're pretty high. We must be where we're going to jump out. No, that's only 5,000 feet. They're taking you up to 10,000 feet. You go up further. And I was okay. I was okay until the door opened and people started falling out. And
Yeah.
people are just rolling out of the plane. And, and then it was my turn. I was tethered to someone because, that's how they do it
Yeah.
when it's your first time. And we go out onto the edge of the plane on this little step. And although you're tethered to someone, they do what you want to do. And so we stood on the step for a while and I could see everything. I could see the curve of the earth. You can see everything from up there. And so that was the only kind of frightening moment right before the leap,
Wow.
right? Because I had
Yes.
wanted to do this. I wanted to do this. And so the only frightening part was right before the leap, right before we fell, when you see everything. But then when we fell, it only felt like falling for about 3 seconds. I don't know if you know this about skydiving, but it only feels like falling for about 3 seconds. And then when you take the position, you have to take a certain position. It feels like floating and flying all the way down. Yeah, so that's like life. I've used that since then. Okay, it's only going to be frightening for a few seconds. If I can just get through the fear, past the hesitation, there's going to be a whole world on the other side that I didn't even know about, that I couldn't imagine. There's going to be opportunities flow towards you that you didn't even foresee.
Okay. First of all, no one has ever explained to me about that. I still don't think I'll get past my fear, but that sounds doable. 3 seconds of fear sounds doable.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that either. Nobody had told me that. Nobody explained that or trained me in that before we went. I just found that out by doing it.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Oh, yeah, you've got my head spinning now. And it's so true. And that does apply in business, applies in life too, if you can just get past that fear. And I think that's
Yeah.
a very important point for our audience because quite often when you have ideation, when you've had a loss, when you're going through a mental health incident, we do isolate ourselves more. And if you just take those steps to perhaps go to a group, to take yourself to a community center where they could be playing cards, they could be doing something in a group. Once you give it a try, what they're doing might not be for you, but you break that barrier once, the second time is easier. And the time after that, it's easier. And getting yourself in a place where you can actually have others to talk to is absolutely connection is the most important thing.
Yes.
I think we
Absolutely.
all need to work on it.
Yeah, totally. It's an ongoing project. It's always a work in progress. I'm always trying to make new connections. And the one of the things is when you've been isolated for a while, it's easy to be judgmental when you show up. So if you try to keep community as the central thing, don't worry about if this is perfect or that's perfect or this person said the wrong thing or the exact right thing. If you just keep community and connecting, who can you just say hi to today? You know what I mean? It can make a huge difference and it really helps your own well-being. It helps other people's well-being having you there. They
Yeah.
want to connect with you. People want to connect with you. That's the thing that I didn't realize is that people actually do want to connect
Yeah.
with me. And until you show up as yourself, your authentic self, you're not going to know that. And the myth is that the one who teaches the most, the one who creates the best website, the one who has the best social content, the one who hustles the most. Like I said, I was hustling 12, 14, 16 hours a day. The myth is the one that hustles to the point of exhaustion makes the most money and freedom, but it's just not true. It's not true. You can do it without that happening, and you can do it without having to be in the deepest valley all the time. The problem was I was trying to do everything on my own, but hustling alone on your island won't get you very far. But walking the path with other like minded people will make the journey more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I really love that.
I had to really flip the scripts in my mind. The ones that say you
Mhm.
have to do it all on your own. You don't need people. Have you ever said that one to yourself? I
Oh,
used to say that. Yep. And then that you have to be polished before you show up. But you don't have to be polished. Quite the opposite. You have to be you to show up. And that's what it takes is the real you to show up and be yourself and be seen. And you'll find your friends in your following if you just show up and you put community first in your objectives of getting out there. And, that can help a lot.
that I think that is one of the most important things we can learn because connection is so important. Not about the networking. It's not even about business. Even in a business setting, it's about connecting with other humans because that's who we are. Humans as a tribe want to connect. That's it. And I was like you. I was one of those who got in my little bubble and I wasn't going to subject anyone else to me being in a bad place. And that's really not how it works.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. They say a rising tide lifts all boats, and we need each other. Even when we don't feel like we need other people, if you just show up and be around other people, just something happens. And it's just good for us. It's good for our mental health to be around others.
That is so true. Jennifer, I thank you so much for taking time with us today and coming on the podcast. I do have a big ask. I am going to ask you to come back. I
Oh,
would
I'd
like
love to
us
come back.
to, yeah, I would like us to continue our conversation because I know for a fact you have a ton more you can offer. And more than that, I'm going to ask if perhaps Paul can come too.
Oh, yeah, he'd love to. He'd love to.
Yes.
We love your show. By the way, you're doing an amazing job. Your podcast is just incredible. Your show is amazing. I recommend everybody watch it and leave a review for Elaine because she is doing incredible work that a lot of people aren't stepping out and doing. It's difficult work. She's getting it and she's helping people. And so review the show and connect with Elaine. And thank you for having me, Elaine. And Paul and I would be glad to come back.
I just thank you. That was absolutely lovely. I very much appreciate that. I'm Elaine Lindsay. This is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. My guest today, Jennifer Henczel. All of her information and all of the ways you can connect with her are right below it. We'll make sure that you get everything. Bye for now. As I always say, make the very best of your today every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for being here for another inspiring episode of Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe and download on your favorite service and check out SZF's YouTube channel or Facebook community. If you have the chance to leave a 5-star rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. Please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from the hope and inspiration from our guests. Suicide Zen Forgiveness was brought to you by the following sponsors: Truel Social Media, the digital integration specialists. Let them get you rocking page 1 in the search results. Canada's keynote humorist Judy Croon, motivational speaker, comedian, author, and stand-up coach at Second City, Judy has been involved for over a decade in the City Street Outreach Program in Toronto.
The Ultimate Podcasting Pack. This is great for you if you're just starting your podcast or if you've been running it for a while. It's filled with tools, templates, and trainings for starting, growing, and monetizing your podcast. Get access to time-saving systems and strategies for accelerating your process at each step. Find new connections and collaborations in the uplifting podcasting community. I look forward to seeing you there.
Do you have a story to share? Do you know someone you think would be a great guest? Please go to szf42.com. And for our American listeners, that's szf42.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again.